Salve Discipuli. This video is going to be for my fully remote students in 8th grade. This is just a quick video kind of going over the grammar of Stage 5 that I'm going to be going over with the students who are coming into class this week. So take a look at this video, take some notes as needed in your Latin notebook or binder, and let me know if you have any questions. So let's get started. All right, so for the grammar for Stage 5, it's focusing on plurals in Latin and then subject-verb agreements. So we're going to talk about that. So for plurals, right, we have plural verbs. In our reviews over the last couple weeks, we've kind of covered all forms for the verbs and nouns, including the plurals. But in Stage 5, it really focuses on those plurals. So just so you know, we will start seeing more plural verbs in the actual passages that we're reading. So it becomes really important to make sure that you know your endings. So just as a reminder, this is our chart for our present tense endings for Latin verbs. Remember those OST, mus, tis, nt endings. So we're going to start seeing more of these plural endings, specifically the third person plural. So this is something we need to pay attention to. Again, this is especially with the third person. This is going to be the most common ones that we see. You really need to pay attention to if the verb ends in a T or if it is ending in NT, because T is singular, NT is plural. So just make sure that you're paying attention to those endings. That T ending for third person is he, she, or it, and the NT ending is for they. So if you already have this chart copied down, you don't need to copy it again, but just make sure you are taking a look at it again, refreshing your memory of our verb endings and specifically these plural ones, and making sure that you can tell the difference between the singular and plural endings. And just in general, making sure that you are able to recognize who is doing a verb based on the ending. So really, really get these endings down and make sure you know if it ends in an O, I'm doing the verb. If it ends in an S, you are doing the verb. T, he, she, or it is doing the verb. Mus is we. Tis is for you all or y'all. And nt is for they. Now for nouns, I'm just going to keep moving my face around. We're going to be seeing plural nouns. Now this gets a little bit more complicated because remember we have our different declensions of nouns. So there's going to be different sets of endings. So there's a few more that you have to kind of keep track of with these ones. But just as a review here, we have our first declension nouns, right? And again, we've only learned the nominative and accusative cases. We're mostly going to be seeing these nominative plurals for our subjects, and this is kind of what I want you to focus on today. So nominative plural for first declension is going to be that AE ending. For second declension, that nominative plural is a long I. And then for third declension, that nominative plural is a long ES. So a few different options for these endings. Again, just making sure you can recognize which ones are plural and which ones are singular. Third declension, again, that nominative case gets a bit complicated, but you'll get the hang of it eventually. But again, just kind of knowing that these ones are those plural endings and the other ones are singular, and that's what we're going to be getting into for the next part, which is our subject-verb agreement. So in a sentence, right, and we do this in English too, you have to make sure that your subject matches your verb. So if this becomes a bit more important in Latin because those endings change for verbs depending on who's doing the verbs, so this becomes really crucial in Latin. But we do see examples of this in English. So, for example, I write, and then if you said he writes, right? The verb form changes. We don't want to say he write. That's not a proper form of the English verb if he is the subject. So we do see a little bit of this in English. It just becomes a bit more specific and important, a little bit more complex than Latin. So we have to make sure that our subject matches our verb. Again, sorry, I keep moving my face everywhere. If the subject is singular, your verb has to also be singular. If your subject is plural, the verb also must be plural. And then again, if I am the subject, right, your verb has to match that ending with the O. Now, for the first and second person, this isn't going to be sort of as big of a deal. There are pronouns for I and we and you, but since the verb ending kind of takes care of that pronoun, we don't always see them. But we'll see some examples of those in our stories, and I'll kind of point them out. But for our purposes, I want you to focus mostly on the third person. Again, this is going to be the most common examples. So I've got some examples for you guys here. We have puella ridet, right? So we have this puella. This is our first declension nominative singular ending for this noun, puella, our word for girl. Since this is a girl, right, this is a third person, and so our verb is going to be that third person singular and that T ending there. So puella ridet means the girl laughs. And then if we want to make it plural, we have to make sure that the endings change to plural as well. So we have our nominative plural form for girls, puellae. And then for our verb, again, since our subject is now plural, we have to make our verb plural as well, rident, with that nt ending. So the girls laugh, right? If we cover up that, if we get rid of the puellae and we just have rident, we would translate it as they laugh. The puellae here is there to specify who the they is, who they are. So we have the girl laughs. Both of these are singular endings. And then we have the girls laugh. So make sure when you're reading a sentence, if you have a plural subject, you will also have a plural verb, and make sure you translate accordingly. So this is an example with one of our first declension nouns. I've done examples for second and third declension as well, just so you can see the changes in the ending. So again, we have servus laborat. So this US, again, is our second declension nominative singular ending. And since our subject here is singular, then the verb must also be singular. That's why we have that singular T ending for he, she, or it. Servus laborat, the slave works. And then to make them plural, again, we change the endings. Our noun ending becomes this servi, right? This is our second declension nominative plural ending. And then our verb laborant, nt, that nt, they ending. The slaves work. And then a third declension noun example, we have mercator dormit. Our third declension nominative singular, remember there's a whole bunch of options for this one. You could change this to leo dormit, our word for lion. So the nominative singular in third declension is going to have kind of a bunch of options. But if you see that this dormit is a singular ending, the subject will also be singular. So this is why we want to look at the whole sentence instead of just individual parts. We have to see how the whole sentence fits together. So in this case, mercator dormit, this is going to be the merchant sleeps, or the merchant is sleeping. And then mercatores dormiunt, this is going to be the merchants are sleeping, right? We have this third declension plural ending. Since our subject is plural, the verb must also be plural. We see that plural nt ending. All right, so we will be doing some examples of this, some practice examples of this next week. Again, this is all kind of still tying into the review we've been doing with those noun endings, those verb endings. This week, we are just specifically focusing on recognizing those plural forms and making sure that if we're reading a Latin sentence, you are paying attention to who your subject is and who's doing your verb and making sure that they match up. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions about this grammar. We're going to be seeing examples of this in your model sentences this week for your translation. So if you haven't done the model sentences yet, this will hopefully help you out a little bit with that. Make sure you are paying attention to your endings and whether or not they are singular or plural, and translate them accordingly. That is all for today. So again, email me if you have any questions about this. If you need to set up a office hours meeting. I'm going to have office hours available on Monday, so just let me know and we can set up an appointment for that. Thank you and walete.